So welcome to our video on Argumentative Explainable AI, summarizing succinctly work by the Computational Logic and Argumentation group at Imperial College London, conducted within the Explainable AI Center. Let us start with a brief introduction on what Explainable AI is.
Consider a machine learning model deciding outcomes for loan applications in a bank. Unfortunately, with machine learning models, it is often difficult to determine why a model made a certain prediction, but we can use techniques from explainable AI to explain what factors were important for this decision. The most common XPAI techniques are feature attributions and counterfactual explanations. Feature attributions show the relative influence of each of the input features, while counterfactuals show us what features would need to be changed in order to get a different model outcome. In this case, it seems that the gender feature has a strong effect on the output of the model, which indicates that it might be biased. Now on to computational argumentation, which is a basis of argumentative XAI.
Okay, computational argumentation is based on a variety of argumentation frameworks. In structured argumentation frameworks, arguments have claims and premises. For example, you may have an argument for a movie to be recommended based on premises that the acting in the movie is great. We may have an argument that the acting in the movie is not great based on some actor being bad in that movie. And we can have an argument that the actor is actually not in that movie based on some source. In structured argumentation, arguments may disagree with each other, indicated here with this arrow. In jargon, we call this disagreement attack. In abstract argumentation frameworks, instead, we ignore the structure of the arguments and we focus on the dialectical relation of attack. In either structured or abstract argumentation, we assess the goodness, the acceptability of arguments using semantics, which can be extension-based or labeling-based. According to one such semantics, which is the semantics of grounded extensions, arguments are accepted if they are unattacked, as in this case, and if they are defended by arguments that are unattacked. In labeling extension semantics, unacceptable arguments may be out or undecided. In bipolar argumentation frameworks, in addition to a dialectical relation of attack, as in abstract argumentation frameworks, we also have a dialectical relation of support. In quantified bipolar argumentation frameworks, or QBAFs, we also have a base score for arguments which characterizes the intrinsic strength of arguments prior to debate. The semantics of quantified bipolar argumentation frameworks can be given in terms of finer-grained gradual semantics which ascribe a dialectical strength to arguments based on their base scores as well as the combined and aggregated dialectical strength of attackers and supporters. The numbers indicated here are given by one such semantics, which is called DF-quad. Argumentative XAI boils down to two steps. In the first step, we go from systems possibly built from data to abstractions in the form of one argumentation framework or another, depending on the needs of the system. And in a second step, we go from this argumentation framework to argumentative explanations. A first example of step one amounts to building argumentative abstractions of multi-layer perceptrons for classification with tabular data. In order to obtain cognitively tractable explanations, we first faithfully sparsify the multi-layer perceptrons and then map them into quantified bipolar argumentation frameworks. We use this approach also to obtain interpretable classifiers for images by combining sparks, the method I just described, and prototypes drawn from image datasets.
With argumentative large language models, we aim to leverage the diversity of knowledge encoded in language models with the explainability of formal argumentation. We do this by generating a QBAF, as explained previously, with a language model. So for the task of claim verification, as demonstrated here, we start with a claim and we use a language model to generate a supporting argument and an attacking argument. And these can be represented symbolically in a QBAF. We then use the language model to generate scores corresponding with each of the arguments. Then we use gradual semantics, specifically the DF quad semantics mentioned previously, to come up with a final decision. So far, we've looked at argumentative abstractions to obtain post hoc explanations, and now we're going to look at argumentative ways of obtaining intrinsically interpretable models.
An example of intrinsically interpretable model is argumentative causal discovery. Here we use argumentation to enhance causal discovery and provide it with explainability and theoretical guarantees at the same time. What we do is we set out to discover a causal graph represented here on the left, where we have arrows representing causal relationships between variables in data. And we map every possible causal graphs into an argumentation framework, in particular a structured argumentation framework, where we have both rules and assumptions to build arguments. We then feed arguments from data, from statistical measures, and the argumentation framework, through its semantics, is able to accept or reject these arguments and create a one-to-one mapping that is guaranteed to represent faithfully a causal graph.
Another example of an intrinsically interpretable model is aimed at empowering clinicians to make better decisions for brain tumor patients by classifying wearable data from a real-world clinical trial. Our technique is called abstract argumentation for case-based reasoning. We start with some default assumption. For example, every patient has progressive disease. However, we know that this might not always be the case. For example, we have one patient here who's doing light tasks, and they've reported having stable disease. Now, this is an exception to our default case, and so we represent this using an argument and an attack. Now, of course, further exceptions may occur, and so we represent the rest of these using a case space, represented by the full length of these arguments and attacks. Then, when we have a new case that we're trying to classify, we compute the grounded semantics, and if the default is accepted, then we use that as the classification for the new case. We hope that this will empower clinicians to make better decisions. But the question is, how can we actually show this to clinicians and to their patients?
In step 2, we create explanations from argumentation frameworks. Here we have a dispute tree, which is a form of explanation for abstract argumentation. It captures a debate between two agents, each arguing for one of two outcomes. Here, the winning agent always chooses the best arguments against every possible counter-argument from the losing agent. This faithfully summarizes the decision-making behavior of the model we have just seen using case-based reasoning.
Now let's look at another example of argumentative explanations, which is extracted from the QBAF. Here we have a QBAF, which is evaluated by gradual semantics DF code. We can see the base goals and the strength on the right side. Now we have a research question, that is, how can we explain the strength of topic argument A? To this end, we propose to use attribution method. The first one is called attribution explanations, which means that we attribute the important scores to the arguments, showing their contribution to the final strength of argument A. We can see blue means that they have positive influence, red means negative influence. The second method, we call it relation attributions, which means that we attribute the important scores to the attacks and the supports instead of the arguments. Same idea, but sometimes we find in many applications it can provide a more fine-grained insight.
A final form of argumentative explanation is interactive, supported by what we call argumentative exchanges. Suppose that we have a human who is not happy with the output of a system. The recommended system in this case said the movie is great, but the human believes it is not. Then argumentative exchanges can allow the human and the machine to reach a conclusion based on exchanging their arguments, which are built from the argumentation framework, abstracting away the working of the recommended system on one hand and the knowledge of the human on the other. In this case, the conclusion of the argumentative exchange is consensus between the two agents. We are grateful to our sponsors who are providing very generous support for this exciting research. Thanks for watching. We hope you have enjoyed our presentation. If you want to find out more about our work, please have a look at our publications.